Let me wet my whistle, as the whites say. Whites love to come up with.
They say that?
They say, shut your pie, shut your hole. And then they're like, let me wet my whistle.
Sounds so dirty.
The wits do a lot. The wits are very busy coming up with things. Oh, right. Like oppression and white supremacy. Kicking shit. Let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, gender nonconforming and trans deities, thank you for tuning in to another Hoodoisie. That is right. We are keeping it radical in the time of Corona with pandemic issues. So if you don't know and you missed like the last over almost 24 episodes, Pandemic Issues is a weekly series that we are doing with our friends at the Southside Weekly, Chicago's baddest, assest, independent weekly journalistic publication. And we've been trying to bring you the analysis and stories that mainstream media is not. And hundreds and thousands of you all have been tuning in and viewing our show over, on the day of and over the week. And so thank you. I'm saying that because we're going to be taking a break after this show, which was a big show, right? We're going to be kind of relaxing, reformulating, planning. Keep your eyes out. We're going to be having a creative activism teach-in. I will repeat all of this at the end. So let me just get started with your show. If you don't know by now, you're fucking dumb. But I'm your host, Ricardo Gamboa, or Ricardo Gamboa, or as I am known in Europe as Bad Bitch University, as I'm known in Europe. I'm also known as European from my colonizer side, but we're super excited tonight. I let my co-hosts introduce themselves before we get into tonight's show.
I'm Charles Preston, Audience Engagement Manager for Injustice Watch, social media troll, and also known as Whiskey Poppy.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is Jackie Serrato, Editor-in-Chief of the Southside Weekly. My pronouns are she, her, hers. It's good to be here.
Hey, it's always good to see you, Jackie. We missed you last week. Look at this little cute face. I just wanted to...
Thank you, I missed you too.
I want to put you in my pocket and feed you a churro. So cute. I am so excited because tonight, I'm not excited about oppression, but I'm excited for our guest tonight to be doing this show tonight, which is entitled General Iron. I want to see General Irons all the time. It's the most Mexican thing about me. I just want to add S's at the end of shit. It's General Iron.
That's a black thing too.
It is?
Yeah, they'd be like, did you go to the Walmarts?
It's a Chicago thing too.
Yeah. It's transracial. So I'm super excited. General Iron does not care about black, brown, or working class people. The title of tonight's show, and we have three guests in the Southeast side who are here to talk about General Iron, their move to try and open up a metal shredder on the Southeast side of Chicago. We got Gina Ramirez from the Southside Coalition to Ban Petcoke. We got Oscar Sanchez from the Southeast Youth Alliance, and we got Olga Bautista from the Southeast Environmental Task Force. Y'all are not fucking around with the geography. You were like, bitch, all these organizations about a
Southeast.
We just getting it confused.
Banging with it.
You gotta recognize.
We didn't want to leave it, to chance. We want to make sure people know there's an east side to the city.
Right, that's not a game.
The east side erasure is real.
Southeast erasure.
No, it is. We're totally forgotten.
Well, let's talk about it, right? Because I think actually before, let's get started a little bit right now. And I think I want to hear about the Southeast side. But actually, I want to learn a little bit more about you all. So if you all can let us know who you are and about your org and your role within it. And let's start off with Gina.
Ooh, Gina.
Hey, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I am with the Southeast Side Coalition to Ban Petcoke, which my friend Olga founded. I've been with this organization for a few years. I'm a mom. I love my hood. And I was like, I'm so sick of it looking like garbage over here and smelling like garbage. So I wanted to do something about it. And I've been collaborating with these awesome panelists for a few years now.
Wow. And so the Southeast Coalition to Ban Petcoke, when was that founded?
Like 2014. So I've been with the Coalition to Ban Petcoke since like 2015, 2016. I was a new mom when it was founded and I was like too busy. But then I was like, once my kid was like 1, I was like, I gotta do some shit. So
And Oscar, tell us a little bit about you and the Southeast Youth Alliance.
Yes, so my name is Oscar Sanchez. I go by he, him, his in the organization Southeast Youth Alliance. The reason like we named it the Southeast Youth Alliance is to just like everybody's saying like it's just like we got to represent where we're from, right? Like I represent Southside whenever I'm in conferences, but it's like let me represent Southeast Side. And it's like this organization started in a basement 2 years ago. We're frustrated college students and community members. You're like, yo, like people are talking so bad about our neighborhood. Like, what do we do about it? Like, what do we do? Like, and we just kept saying like, well, we can complain or we can do something. And we're like, all right, let's start having visionary sessions. We didn't even know what visionary sessions were. We talked to some of our mentors and we're like, yo, like what we want to make sure youth know there's different things that we can do. In the visionary session, what we do is that we tell youth like, hey, like, what's the difference between our neighborhood and other neighborhoods, specifically North Side, white, rich neighborhoods, and how can we change that? And that's how we started doing some activism. So the Southeast Youth Alliance is just a place to create a platform for youth to run and lead. And I'm glad to be one of the co-founders alongside Maria Maynez, Sara Galvan, Nicholas Robadillo, Luis Cabrales. I have to give them a shout out because like those are the folks that like help like spearhead a lot of this change. It's I can't say my name without mentioning their names because like they did a lot of this work. And again, like we got to rep Southeast Side. I love Southeast Side. I hate the oppression. I hate the freaking air over here. I have to double filter my damn water, but I love it over here, you know?
Right. I love that you all were forming a revolution in your basement at that age, and I was hitting a nitrous tank and doing other drugs. So that's
not my basement. Shout out to Luis Cabrales' basement. Shout out to his mom for always having snacks.
Nice. And Olga, break it down. Who is she? She is Olga B. She is the baddest. That's what the B.
I'm a mom. I'm a daughter of immigrants and that came here to work in the steel mills. And I grew up, in a very depressing neighborhood where like, just as I was born, like all these steel mills, all these people started losing their job. And I started to work on different environmental justice campaigns. I am a board member at the Southeast Environmental Task Force. I'm a co-founder of the Coalition to Ban Petcoke. And I also work as an urban planner for the Alliance for the Great Lakes. And I get to focus my work on this in this neighborhood, all the stuff that's happening along the Calumet River. But, I learned about activism and got involved when I was in college at Harold Washington College, and I learned about the Death Row 10. There was John Burge, this crazy corrupt cop, was torturing innocent people and making them confess to crimes they didn't commit. And I got involved with the campaign to end the death penalty, and then we won. Like it happened, and I was like, oh shit! Like if you organize and you protest, like we could. Like I didn't know people were still doing that. Like I didn't. I thought it ended after like Martin Luther King, and then it's been like I was living like a very nice, life in the Southeast Side. My parents worked really hard, and I just didn't know like that there was so much injustice happening in my city, and that kind of rocked my world. And I was like, I need to figure out like what else is happening. And I got involved in different campaigns. All of it had to do with quality of life issues and social justice. And so here I am.
So
having me, I'm so happy to be here.
Yo, can I give a really quick shout out to the other orgs that have been helping us like do all these events too?
Go ahead, show that solidarity.
Yeah, so shout out to Bridges and Puentes. Go give them a follow. They're a social justice collective. Shout out to all the people with them. Shout out to UN10 United Neighbors of the 10th Ward. Dope place. Like, please check them out. Like, got a lot of love for them. And this has nothing to do with this, but it does because it's involving racism. George Washington High School LSC just voted out SROs from the high school. Amazing. And I'm so hyped and happy. Before this, I was on that call, so I am so happy. I just got to say that. Ooh.
I think your like street name should be Shout Out Sanchez. You gave like
Shout Out Sanchez.
Sanchez.
You gave like 30 shout outs already up in this bitch. You're like The basement got a shout out with this motherfucker.
Wow.
he said,
Luis's mom got a shout out.
Yo, gangster recognize gangster. You know, it's just gonna be like you gotta recognize where it comes from. It's my roots.
Yes.
You got your roots.
So Olga,
Yes.
I first got hip to the Southeast Side probably in my early 20s. Like I lived in Roseland on 115th
Oh, yeah.
and Emerald, and I went to Dunn on 119th and Union for elementary school. And some kids graduated 8th grade and they said they went to Washington High School. And I'm like, where the hell is that at? But then it wasn't until a time like I went, you know, just east on 115th Street, and then I started seeing like Avenue L, Avenue M, and different types of avenues. And I'm like, there's a whole different side of Chicago that's not really like talked about, not really explored. So can you tell us about some like historical background for like the Southeast Side, like who lives there and how has this treated the area?
Of course. So the Southeast Side was a hub of the steel industry for 100 years. You know, people were coming from all over the world to work in the steel mills here. And even in in the little dusty town in Mexico, where my family's from, it was discovered that there was work here. And about in the 80s, one by one, the steel mills started to close down. And it caused a lot of devastation. I mean, the local newspaper here had discovered that like within like the first 8 years from when the steel mill closed, over 600 people had lost their lives to depression, to alcoholism, to suicide. And that's what we're known for. We're known for being like this formerly like a hub for the steel industry. And then because the land was zoned for, well, I just gotta say this, it's also very diverse. Every time there was a strike at the steel mills, the company would go to a different country, like a Eastern European country where there was a port, where there was lots of men, and they would recruit and bring people to come in and break the strikes that were happening in the steel mill. So like almost every single ethnic group, Croatian, Serbian, Polish, Swedish, that group that came here, like they arrived as strike breakers. And there was, and then Mexican immigrants came literally on barges. My husband's grandfather came on a barge up the Mississippi River to be a strike breaker. You know, freed Black folks, that people who were leaving, like from the South, you know, were coming up to work in the steel mills. And there was always that like animosity towards the different groups, you know, because the workers were pitted against each other by the companies very strategically. And the workers, the ethnic groups that were there longer would get the sweet jobs, you know, like they would become like either firemen for the steel, you know, like kind of far away from where like all the danger was. And each ethnic group, newer ethnic group that came in got the worst jobs, the most dangerous jobs, the ones that got them sick, the ones that killed a lot of people from COPD. And apart from that, like this area is also just one of the most ecologically diverse areas in our region. Like the birds that come through here and nest through here, we have all this marshland, these beautiful parks, and you know, the Burnham Greenway, you know, that folks use, like these trails all across the neighborhood. And we've been really lucky to be able to, like the beach is 5 minutes from here.
They got a beach out there?
Calumet Park Beach.
Not really a beach. It's like a dump.
And yeah, it's just beautiful. Like it lends itself to like a lot of outdoor stuff. Like the parks here are just crazy awesome in the summer, like soccer games, baseball games. I mean, it's just a beautiful neighborhood, rich with culture. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why we fight so hard, right? Because it is such a beautiful community. But the river is completely 100% monopolized by industry. When those steel mills left, the land was still zoned for like the most dirty of industry. And what we've seen is like a very concerted effort to focus though like that kind of dirty industry in this neighborhood. And it's and you know that's kind of like why we're here today, to talk about like why some of that is still happening. But I thought it was important to talk about all the good stuff too, like the festivals here, like the church festivals, like all summer long. They'll bring in like the banda dinamita, like they'll be dancing cumbias on the streets, you know, like mariachis, like, I mean, you could walk through where I grew up. I grew up in Vets Park, the neighborhood of or Slag Valley. You could walk across the neighborhood and hear like bagpipers, hear like some like Croatian band playing, and then hear like some hip hop. Everybody in the backyards blasting like 8 different types of music. And it's just incredibly rich and beautiful. And that's why we love it.
The Heights by Lin-Manuel Miranda, my arch nemesis. I think this is like, so I think Olga, you started touching on it, that the Southeast Side has kind of been a target point for environmental pollution, for racism, for kind of degradation. And right now, right, that's precisely what's happening, why we're even here right now, is to talk about General Iron. So Gina, I know like, you know, you've been involved in the, you know, in the coalition to ban Petcoke. Can you talk a little bit about some of those other instances of environmental injustice, and then tell us what the fuck is General Irons doing over there on the Southeast Side now?
Yeah, there's just so many issues going on the Southeast Side. So I started the advocacy with the coalition with manganese, which is a neurotoxin that was getting emitted through the air through this facility right across the street from homes. It's been found in really high levels in the soil, and people are still living and playing on top of this manganese neurotoxin contaminated soil to this day. We found out 2 years ago. There's been just during the pandemic times, we found out that 2 of our Little League fields have really high levels of lead and arsenic. So kids have been playing on this shit for like generations. And there's a Superfund site that's like right across the way from those Little League fields. And people...
Can you talk about really quick what a Superfund is?
Yeah, so Superfund site is like the most contaminated sort of debris on land. And so this particular Superfund site, it's called the Shroud site. It looks like piles of coal. It's uncovered. There's nothing that grows on it. And it actually kind of looks like a dirt bike road, and people use it that way. And like people used to get drunk in high school and like hang out on it. And it's like filled with lead, arsenic, manganese, like carcinogens. It's the worst ever. And it takes like years to get it cleaned up. It takes years for it to be even notified to be a Superfund site. We fought with the Chicago Department of Public Health to put barriers and warning signs up because they didn't want to get sued if someone got sick. Yeah. That's just like some of the things that we have to do on a daily basis just to keep our families healthy. So on top of like all of this sort of legacy pollution going on.
Legacy pollution is a horrible term to have to use, but go ahead.
You know, now General Iron has been terrorizing the North Side for years, and they, you know, have this amazing $6 billion Lincoln Yards mega development, which is a neighbor to General Iron on the North Side, and they're like, let's just move this to the Southeast Side because it's zoned that way. So it's terrible. General Iron it's a metal shredder. So essentially it just kind of like rips apart cars. It contaminates the air, the water, the soil, and it's extremely dangerous, and it's a constant health hazard. And that's something that we do not need to be adding to the Southeast Side.
And who is, so I know that it's General Iron and also RMG. Can you talk to us a little about who RMG is?
Yeah, so RMG is a company that is going to merge with General Iron. They're located on the southeast side, across the street from Washington High School. They're also a shredder, but they don't shred cars. They kind of recycle electronics and like things like on a smaller scale. But they are also a really bad polluter. They've been operating without permits. Someone has died there. They are like terrible to their workers. So when General Iron merges with RMG, if they do on the southeast side, it's going to like triple the amount of pollution. It's going to bring in hundreds of more diesel trucks and just be, it's going to be horrible news. And Washington High School, which I'm a proud alum of, they already have air monitors up and they are registered at the highest level of like cadmium and other heavy metals. So there's already, because of the pollution that already exists, there's already a problem with the air that children are breathing at that school. And now we're going to just add to that with bringing General Iron down because the north side doesn't want it.
And so I'm thinking, so let's talk about this, right? Because I think we're at a really interesting moment right now during the pandemic, right? Precisely because General Iron is happening during Southeast Chicago. Also, Hilco happened, right? Hilco kind of demolishing a plant during a respiratory pandemic. In both of these cases, one of the things that's been really hard about figuring out, you know, who's responsible for all this is thinking about, you know, is the way politicians, aldermen, the mayor have kind of deflected and kind of said that they're not responsible, right? In this case, one of the things I'm thinking about is like with General Iron, right? It's a very kind of simple game, right? That that happens with Hilco. So like I know Oscar, right? Like you've talked about last time when we were talking about, you were talking about like Alderman Sue Garza and kind of her role within all this. Can you talk a little bit about that test right now?
Yeah, definitely. So it's like, so I think it's interesting. Like we've all worked with Susan Garza, right? Like that's our older woman. We loved and respected her, right? She was a counselor before she went to politics, so she was in a lot of our hearts, right? So I think that's where a lot of folks were kind of like scared to hold her accountable to a lot of these things because they're like, oh no, Garza wouldn't do that to us. Oh, Garza has our best interest. But when it comes to a lot of these things, it sucks because we can say, right? We can say that Garza took some initiative to help out in the beginning, very minimally, right? But now, like we don't see her. We see as if she's given up, right? And she always talks about like, oh, like you are my children. But like, if you're really your children, she would like when you fight for your kids, you don't let them die. You don't let a polluter go into your community. And when it comes to a lot of constituents, like we did a protest because we wanted to demand her to answer some of our questions of like, what is she currently doing to fight this from happening? And she said, well, it's a merger. She kept saying it's a merger. Like I can't stop a merger, right? But like, no, you can stop the permitting. And she's like, it's a done deal. And like,
didn't she step out on her like front porch, like on her front steps and start like crying and shouting? I mean, I thought that
she called me out. She was like, Oscar, you know me. You don't know. And I'm like, I know you, but like that doesn't matter. Like nothing that you know all of us. And that's the thing that sucked. And then what she's helped with with what we can say right now, she held a community town hall meeting with the CPD. Wait, I can't even say it. What Gina, Olga,
Chicago Department of Public Health, CDPH.
CDPH, there we go. So she had a meeting with them after a year of not even speaking with them. She holds this meeting, and it was a complete. Let's be honest, it was a shit show. Like it sucked. It was horrible. They were targeting the new environmental director Angela Tovar, and they kept putting her address. They ended up canceling the chat. They were making public comments. It was just ridiculous. Like, and it wasn't enough. Like,
they were targeting. Who was they?
We don't know. There was a person in the chat that kept putting the
like hackers. Like the town hall meeting they had for us was hacked, and they were. The hackers were putting like really derogatory comments on the chat. They were putting the addresses to the different public officials, their home address on the chat, and
They put porn on the screens.
it was really poorly organized. Yeah, it was very too little, too late. You know, like, and also like Oscar said, right? We had gotten really wrong information from the alderman about like what was next for this company, like that it was a done deal. And that's really scary when like the person that has been elected to represent you on the important matters, you know, that affect our families is not clear on the process. It like we lose confidence in that.
That happened. Did you any fact that it was even like an intentional sabotage? Because to me, it's like really kind of like common sense. Like you lock the Zoom room, you let the participants in. You know what I mean? Like it's really hard for me to believe that like Sue Garza didn't know that was a threat, or that wasn't something premeditated either by, you know, her supporters in the ward, or even like by General Iron. I don't put that above. Right? We've seen the way these corporations lie. We've seen the way these politicians, you know, are snaky as hell. Was there any kind of speculation around that for any of you all, or any of the people that were in attendance there?
Was there a follow-up?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that was interesting too is that when it came to public comments, a lot of the folks on the line were like folks from the Southeast side, and when they're giving public comments, the internet kept being cut off, and it was only our folks that our comments being cut off.
I mean, it's so funny that you're saying that, because right now when I keep on clicking on the Facebook Live video, it keeps on telling me that there's an error in the content.
And this just reminds me of the so-called community engagement that the city tried to do with the Little Village community around Hilco. There was, I think, a couple of virtual meetings that were essentially one-sided. It was essentially the city speaking to or talking to the constituents, and really not really accepting feedback or being open to the community's concerns and objections to the project. So I think all of this is performative in many ways. And I find it interesting that the Department of Public Health is so invested in these infrastructure developments and working with developers. I wonder why that is.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that Jackie points out too is like Sue Garza very much reminds me of Mike Rodriguez, the alderman in Little Village, and that they're both fake as fuck, right? Like they both kind of campaigned as progressives. They both kind of performed this type of like, we're of the community. And then at the same time, they're letting their communities get polluted and hijacked by, you know, environmental offenders that are literally compromising the life expectancy of their constituents. And that is violent. It is racist when your constituents are immigrants and other people of color, and it's classist. And I think, you know, it's actually astounding to me that someone like Sue could be on the Progressive Caucus when all this is happening, and that the other aldermen, you know, you have aldermen like Byron, you have aldermen like Rosana Rodriguez that are actually fighting for their communities, and someone like her who just is kind of like playing a victim. I mean, the fact that she stepped outside of her home crying, you know, and as a light, is she Latina or is she actually white? I never know, because it's like Polish last name and then a Latina last name. But I know that she's a light-skinned woman that, like, you know what I mean, is over here crying, and we've seen that before, and also self-victimizing. Like, if you were to even look up white woman guilt, you know what I mean, or white woman tears, literally when I was watching that footage, it was the exact performance of, you know, of that type of stuff. And if any of Sue Garza's followers don't like it, Ricardo Gamboa, Defund Daddy on Instagram, hit me up, boo. So I'll throw that out there. I think, because I think it's important that, like, you know, one of the things that the Hoodoisie does is we hold politicians to account.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's what, like, we have to like call out, like, she did receive funding from General Iron for her campaign, and a lot of other aldermen have also received funding from like General Iron. Like they're known for giving money into politicians' like pockets. And even when it came to like Northside Lincoln Yards, like when the alderman was running, his whole campaign was getting rid of them, and the General Iron wasn't paying them. Like you obviously see the connect between like what the relationships they want to build with. And that's what we have to also keep accountable. Is like, we don't need developers funding pockets of politicians. It's just there can be a relationship again, like how Olga said earlier, like, yo, like it's cool, we are for recycling, right? But just do it in a way that doesn't kill the people living there just because you don't live there. And they're not even bringing jobs. They literally say like, hey, yo, we're gonna use your land, we're gonna kill your folks, but the people that are going to work there are the people from the north side, or people that have already been working there. I think so there's no benefit economically to us anyway.
Yeah, and I think you know, Oscar, right. So I also love that you brought up how like people are always like, you know, they're saying this with Target building the warehouse where Hilco was demolishing, like it's bringing jobs, but like, you know, jobs at the expense of, so that people can pay for more inhalers for their children that are going to be growing up with asthma or leukemia bills, right? Like in somewhere like Little Village that already has disproportionate rates of those kind of illnesses because of environmental damage. And so I'm even thinking about this because I think you brought up this thing about General Iron, right? General Irons. Amen, General Irons. But like about General Iron and you know, and their donations. And so for those of you that don't know, and I think this is, I'm inviting everybody to kind of chime on in. But like General Iron is a corporation. It's run by the Lapkin family, Howard Lapkin. They also run Rose Worldwide. They also had the Purple Pack Committee that was also donating to candidates during the aldermanic elections. They gave a significant amount of money to the Latino Leadership Council that Chuy Garcia headed and founded with a bunch of other fucked up Latino politicians like George Cardenas, who let Matt Asphalt, you know, pollute McKinley Park, like Ricardo, you know, Munoz is in their pictures and their selfies with Danny Solis, who, you know, was taking a break from getting a happy ending at a, you know, from a masseuse sex worker. But one of the things that, you know, and I think what's so important about them is like they were giving money to Tanya Patiño, who was running in Burke's ward, but was kind of like also is Aaron Ortiz's, right, partner.
Yeah.
You know, and who took the race after kind of that whole crew, after Jose Torres was just a hack wannabe politician that now does selfies with Lori Lightfoot. You know what I mean? Like singing happy birthday to her. You know, kind of bowed out to provide that space for her against Burke, you know, and it's so funny because it made me wonder if even that, if the Southwest side was potentially a site for the shredder because of the amount of money that they give to, you know, in this race. And so I just think it's important because a lot of these politicians that I just named, Mike Rodriguez, Chuy Garcia, George Cardenas, like Sue Garza, they stand on kind of a following of people that don't even really know some of the shady shit that they're doing, like taking money from this corporation. And so I'm saying that because I think they're not the only kind of players in this scenario, right? There's General Iron, there's Sue, there's Dr. Awadi, who runs the Department of Public Health, and there's Lightfoot as well. And so if you guys don't mind, like, let's just play a game where I'm going to say, talk about these motherfuckers and let us know what we need to know about their role and their involvement in this. Is that cool?
So I want to just say one thing, like, when it comes to politicians, we don't need them to be our friends. Like, we don't need you to be our friends. We don't need you to be our allies. We just need you to represent us. That's the bottom line. And
I need them to have good fucking parties. Like if can't afford a bottle of wine, I'm gonna go to an open house.
Well, I'll give it to Sue. Sue knows how to throw a party for sure.
She knows how to keep her constituents quiet with a party. Yep.
Yeah, I mean that is true. Okay, so let's talk to us about these. Let us know who the players in this game are, because I think when we were talking last night, one of the things that we don't realize. Most people are not aware of like kind of the mechanics of how this even plays out and the intricacy of some of these things of this plot. It feels like a conspiracy. It feels like science fiction, right? And so let's just kind of, if y'all don't mind, I'm tired of talking. I've been talking so much. I think I drank this wine way too fast. Hey.
Drunk it too damn fast.
All right. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Babe, can you make me another cocktail? Sorry, guys. It's very important. I'm fighting oppression with my love.
Good.
And my all right, cool. Thank you. All right, let's hear it. Let's hear it. Who are these? Who are the foes?
What do you want to talk about first?
Who is Angela Tovar?
Ooh.
I could take this one.
That's homegirl.
Yeah, that's our homegirl. Actually, she's from the southeast side of Chicago. She recently was appointed by Mayor Lightfoot to be the new chief sustainability officer. Back when Rom was in office to save the city, I think like $1.4 million a year, he disbanded the Department of the Environment and the work still happens, some work still happens, but it happens in different agencies. And one of the roles or the goals for this position for Angela Tovar is to set the stage for like a new Department of the Environment to start working and bringing in the resources and to develop a new department to pretty much undo the crap that Rom did. And that's a lot for one person. So she was in the Bronx for many years working on different sustainability issues after the Hurricane Sandy in the Bronx, and then got married and had a baby and came back to Chicago. But she's from the Southeast side. She lived this and breathed this. She understands, the issues. It's really early. She just got the position. We're hoping that we'll be able to support her as much as we can, but it is going to take a lot more. The city is going to have to give her the staff that she needs to do all these things, because one person can't be in charge of all the environmental justice stuff, climate issues, drinking water issues, like all these, crises that we're in. So she's gonna need a lot of support. She's gonna need more staff and more.
So thumbs up in the chat for Angela Tovar, like that's one of our homegirls.
Yes, and she was on the show.
And yeah, she's been on the show before, Charles, when we had our first show in Southeast Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you thought you would know her, or if you did a Google search.
Well, the people know her now. So who is Dr. Allison Owoye?
I could say a little bit about Dr. Owoye. She has been saying some really problematic things over the past few weeks at these town halls. Yeah. The one on the north side, she said, General Iron produces this thing called auto fluff, which looks like metallic moss, and it's all over Lincoln Park residents, sidewalks and screens and houses. And Dr. Owoye was like, well, there's a process and all the contaminants are taken out. So it's not a problem. And we sent a letter, our organization sent a letter saying, this is a nuisance that is inaccurate, that there's still lead, copper, and zinc within this auto fluff material. And you can't be going around saying things like that. And it's also problematic that Olga has said this before, that she is a doctor who was just practicing a few months ago, and she has like a heavy hand in the land use and zoning.
Is she an environmental doctor?
No.
Like a medical doctor.
Yeah.
And she's in charge of zoning, and she's in charge of these permits. And
how though?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's one of the things, right? Like that's what happened that's what Rom did to us. Like he left us in the situation where a department that was not doing this is now doing this. And some of the people from the Department of the Environment moved and worked out of that department, but it's still, she's not an expert in land use. She's not an expert, but even like the fact that she is a doctor, like that should be a signal, right? To like, hey, the city just put out an air quality report. I'm a doctor. It says this stuff is like these areas of the city are in danger right now. Like, and we're in the middle of a pandemic that affects the respiratory system. Like, so like, even though that she's a doctor, she's not falling into line and like, not like interpreting the laws in ways that are going to be protective of community. They're always fighting with the industry.
Olga.
The benefit of the doubt.
Olga, is Dr. Owoye, is that an appointed position?
Yes.
So
yes.
It's a doctor that was making money, big money as a doctor.
She was I think she was already working for the Department of Public Health. There was another director, or there was another commissioner there before. Her name was Julie Marita. And when Ram was leaving, she ended up getting a job at a big foundation. But she made a big mess before she left. She left Dr. Awadi a huge mess. And the city and
I don't feel bad about Dr. Awadi, because if I'm correct, what you all are saying is like she's someone that, one, like got her bag. Oh, two, has been kind of in the department, has her own kind of like practice. Three, knows that the shit is popping off in general, you know, at General Iron. Knows, I mean, it's not like fuck, it's fucking science, but it's not rocket science. So like, it's very clear that this stuff is an environmental effect. And so Dr. Awadi, this woman who is, you know, basically living off of our tax dollars and our, you know, and our revenue, is actually then using her job to lie to residents and tell them that they're not at any health risk, to lubricate the possibility so that the mayor can get this, and can get, you know, General Iron, who donated to her and probably to, and you know, and they were one of the, if I'm correct, to get their shredder there, and that is like unethical.
That's unethical. Like, she took an oath, right, to be a doctor, to like protect people. Like, this
it ain't right.
I mean, the complete opposite.
Angry faces in the chat. Angry faces for Dr. Awadi.
No, and I think, and Olga, you said something really, really good, but I want to correct you. You said that Ram left us with this person, right? Ram didn't leave office though. We have Lori, and then if we don't recognize that Lori is just another Ram, then yeah.
And that's what I was saying too. Is like, props to Angela for doing a job that I wouldn't want to do, right? But the reality is, like, I think we need to be really honest that Lightfoot has proven over and over again that she does not care about us, and that's not propaganda. That's not me. I mean, like, I'm a researcher. Like, I have to cite my claims, like, you know, like, and I can like just give a list of policy moves in which, you know, she didn't. I mean, the biggest thing is that, again, like the idea of appointing a chief sustainability officer instead of bringing back the environmental department that she promised to bring back, and on that platform, and all these little white people on the north side that wanted to, you know, shout down queers of color who were saying, do not vote for this woman, she's fake as fuck. We're like, no, she's gonna bring back the environment. She loves the art, you know, because they put their kid in some theater program. And so, like, I think I'm saying that though because it is the reality of like, it seems like a tokenizing move on the part of the city of like, we're gonna have this person that's going to do this work. And they're all, and like you said, it's so much of amount of a work for one person. And yet we can't get them to take down, you know, to cut a contract with the city, you know, when there's, you know, and so I'm just wondering, like, we're $1.8 billion for police. And yet here we are, have someone like Southeast Chicago that's constantly under the threat of death by, you know, haunted by death, but from environmental degradation. Don't want to, you know, and I want to say that because I think we're a radical show. And like, I want to make sure I don't want anyone being confused like about Lightfoot's fucked up politics, especially when it comes to the environment. Because I think people like her, they see land as a mass to be parceled out to the highest bidder, and the dreams of environmentalism where we can enjoy green space is something that they reserve for the privileged while they let us die.
So like I want to our other person, and we've touched on Alderman Sue Garza before, but let's go in more depth. What has she done to hold General Iron accountable in any way to her constituents, number one? And number two, why aren't more people upset?
She offered to give us tours of the facility to see how safe it is. I mean, how has she held General Iron accountable? I mean, what has she brought? I mean, they partnered to bring in a food pantry. So we got some money from them, right? What else have she done publicly to say like, hey, like this is wrong what you're doing? She hasn't done anything publicly from any articles. She created she sent out an email and a newsletter saying, I forgot what she titled it. She titled it something in the words of like setting the record straight. And she basically was saying all the time she advocated for like what she did for the like everything, but it was just little like bullet points with some articles citing her saying something, and it wasn't even aligned with the whole demands that we had.
Yeah, there was just to chime in here, Oscar, if it's okay. The alderman has said that she has fought General Iron's move every step of the way, and in the beginning, like 2 years ago, we had a meeting regarding manganese with the IEPA, with the Department of Public Health. And after that meeting was over, she let us know, this is in the first term, during her first term, that that Rom and Commissioner Reifman were up to some, business of bringing this company down here, and she wanted us to help stop the company. And we got on it. We started to work with them. She brokered meetings with the owners. We got to meet Adam Labcon, and we got to see a lot more of him than we thought we were going to see. He came like with a white shirt, open all the way almost down to his belly button, exposing his like recently waxed chest.
Nothing wrong with that.
Like that. He walked into the meeting to tell us everything was going to be okay, looking like Ricky. Just kidding, Ricky. I love you.
Better looking than him myself.
It was a really interesting meeting because during that meeting when we met them too, like we brought up the fact that they had been cited by the EPA, and they had an excuse for everything. They're like, oh, that was wrong. Like we had already done this, these changes, and they came and they were just harassing us. Like it's like this theme of like these white people who are causing harm to people and playing the victim like over and over again. So she helped broker that meeting. We thought like we were gonna stop this, and lo and behold, like we heard about a zoning board of appeals hearing that was happening. I was on the Metro on the way to work, and I get a call like, hey, there's gonna be this hearing for General Iron because they wanna they wanted to get around having to like plant enough trees to manage stormwater runoff, and a slew of things that we had no idea it was going to happen. So we called her, and she was like, this is messed up. I don't know anything about it, and was calling the commissioner. We get there. We probably had without notice just started to call people with our phones, just starting to call people like, hey, this is happening, please come to city council and testify against this at this hearing. And we had about 40 people come, which was incredible. Folks from NRDC came. There was Sunrise Movement was doing a protest during this time at a walkout with students, and a bunch of students came from Whitney Young. But you know who wasn't there? Our older woman wasn't there. She never came. They didn't hear us until like 6 p.m. And we were there for at least 9, almost 10 hours waiting to testify. And we find out like a week later that in fact she did get an email. She just had not opened it and did not know and didn't let anybody else know. And there's been like just a lot of things like that have happened where you would think like if this was something that you were fighting at every step of the way, that we would be getting information from her office on social media, that there would be like, hey, this thing is happening, you all should know. But across the board, anytime there's a hearing or there's like the IEPA hearing for permits or anything like that, it's the community groups that put out the information. Folks know that if they need to know what's going on, they go to the community groups, because I mean, even this far along in the game, like just a month ago, there was still wrong information that was coming from her about this being a done deal. It was not a done deal. That there was nothing we could do to stop a merger. And it's like all these code words to try to deflect, like we talked about, like trying to deflect that this is a problem that, first of all, like, she had a lot of supporters at CTU, SEIU, all these, big groups, NNU, the National Nurses United. And has she reached out to them, to other elected officials, to our senators, to our state senators and representatives? The answer is no.
I have a question. One, could we change her name to Pooh Garza? She wants people dropping shit all in the community. I think we should just keep it on brand. Pooh Garza. Two, I really think that, like, has there been any discussion amongst community groups to run a candidate against her?
I think there should be.
the Hoodoisie will help out. We'll do the media pro bono for that candidate. I promise. Because I can't. I'm joking around a lot. I'm like drinking some wine, but I actually, one of the things that was so hard was like working all day, and then like one, having our editorial meeting and like being enraged after this meeting, then doing the research to prep for the show and being more enraged, and then being like getting mad as I'm like setting up my microphone and my thing and realizing it's just so infuriating that this is even happening. You know what I mean? Like even when you think about like, it's so funny that Lightfoot does this kind of grandstanding against Trump, and then at the same time has a science, it's kind of a denial science that they use with Dr. Awadi, that at the same time kind of has this type of cronyism with someone like Sue Garza that also like, has propelled that. I mean, so Gina, I think one of the things I'm thinking about is like Olga mentioned like Sue, Sue not informing the community about the meeting, but you actually were able to confront her at a meeting and saw her at a meeting. I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Is it cool to talk about it on the show? If not, I can come up with
I'm fine. I'm just
if you're gonna talk all the tea. We want the shade, the tea. I want to feel like we're fucking free.
Well, here we go.
I want to feel like we're Lipton. There's so much motherfucking tea up in this. No pressure.
We got Charles drinking over here. Wow.
I'm super disappointed. I'm disappointed that I have to live somewhere where I'm policing polluters and policing politicians, and it's really fallen on these organizations' shoulders to do her job. Every time we have a meeting with Chicago Department of Public Health every other month, Sue Garza has not been at the meeting for the past year. She sometimes sends a delegate. She's, just kind of been MIA for the Illinois EPA permit process. We were the ones educating the community, getting people to sign a change.org petition, trying to like make sure during this pandemic that people knew that like their lives were, threatened again by someone else. And it was the day of the Illinois EPA permit hearing, and it's like 4 p.m. and Sue Garza puts out a notice on Facebook. And it was like, it's just too little, too late. And it's intentional.
Yeah, I'm sorry, who put out a notice on Facebook?
Sue Garza. So it was the day of where you could testify against General Iron.
Didn't you mean Pooh Garza? Go ahead. So then what happened?
So people called her out on it, like, why are you letting us know everything's just too little too late? And I feel like we're constantly twisting her arm. And it got to the point where we did do a protest in front of her house. And that's where we got this Swiss cheese timeline from her. But it's really just been because we've had to keep pushing. And it's like already we're fighting for our lives out here. We shouldn't have to be fighting against someone who should be fighting for us.
Mm-hmm. And you all even said that like when the mom of Howard of the Lapkin showed up at the meeting, she was dressed in diamonds or something. It was like something.
Yeah, she was like dripping in diamonds. We have Calumet Bakery, which is like the oldest bakery, only bakery on the east side, and she was like taking all of our donuts. And that's just like how I felt how our neighborhood is. Like she's just taking the donuts were us, and she's just like mine.
How oppressive is that?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like.
I think one of the crazy things about Sue, when you're talking about this, is like, I don't think that people get like, Olga, you really champion the diversity of Southeast Chicago. I think that's great, but it reminds me of where I also grew up, Mount Greenwood, which is right next to Beverly and Morgan Park, and it's super racist. Like I think that both kind of like that ward and your ward are the wards that voted most for Trump in the city of Chicago.
Yeah, we have a lot of people on Avenue O in Hegwish in the neighborhood with, Hegwish backs the blue signs. It's very Blue Lives Matter. There's a lot of us have family who are in the police department. Like that is just because this is kind of like the last frontier, in the city, like where it's still affordable to buy a home here, to live here. And hasn't been gentrified. A lot of city workers live in this neighborhood, but we have a very this is the neighbor. We have a very shitty past when it comes to racism. In my lifetime, I have seen Black kids chased out of Vets Park. People were throwing bricks at them. I mean, really extremely violent things have happened here in my lifetime. My friend Mari has talked about how they burned crosses by the park by her house when she was a little girl. And
it's like these people, it's so bizarre, like, because I feel like they're probably like Sioux loyalists, almost because they hate to see brown people complaining about their conditions, and also because of the fact that she has a proximity to whiteness, right? Like, or I mean, how do they respond to this? Because it always amazes me the cognitive dissonance that white people will have or racists will have.
Well, I mean, it's like a mixed bag of shit, is what I would say it is. You know, like there's some things that, you know, like there's things that have happened, like Sue voted with the mayor for the budget. You know, she has. It's just been, it hasn't been consistent, and so she like makes and loses friends. I think a lot, like, but that not that many. I mean, she kind of pisses off a lot of the right wingers, but it's not enough. Like we should be. I think this is a time when we need to be more polarized. We need to take.
I just want to give a shout out to my lover that's acting too nervous to say, but like.
Hi, Sean.
My life, you just natural things like wine that comes from grapes because we are an environmental household with our drinking.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that all of those Blue Lives Matter people are backing Sue. I think they want someone in office here that is even more repressive than Sue is what they want.
Yeah.
They don't want. They don't. I don't think they back her like that. But yeah, so the neighborhood, it is very hard, it's very repressed. This is the neighborhood of Edward Verdoliak, you know, like Fast Eddie, Eddie 29, right? Like this is, my neighborhood is a neighborhood where like they would meet, like him and Ed Burke would, you know, work together to stop every single thing that Harold Washington was trying to do for Chicago.
Yes.
And it was so repressed, like even the art here, like is so repressed. Music, like we don't get to show our culture like in other communities. It's shut down, you know, that kind of thing is not like, it's not accepted.
So interesting. I think one of the things
the little bit that we do have though has come at like a great cost to people. Like a lot of people had to take a lot of risks to get the little bit of culture and, you know, things that celebrate our own heritage, you know, it's been hard.
I think that brought up two questions. One is like, if there is retaliation and, you know, in that corner of Chicago when you guys do this type of work, but the other one too, I guess that's even like around that is like, you know, you're already seeing gentrification spread into South Shore. Which, you know, I think that in my lifetime, I never thought that I would have seen get there, you know, I saw it take over Pilsen. It's bleeding right now into Little Village. And it's really weird because when you think about it, like Southeast Chicago, despite the fact that it's far from downtown or somewhere like that, it's still like this, like, you know, it's affordable land. There's a lot of there's like the Calumet River going through there. There's kind of like those forest reserves. There's the beach. You know,
and we have a big swath of land right on the lakefront that 3 developers have tried to, you know, broker a deal, and all 3 the deals have gone south. Like it didn't work out because some of the land is still contaminated. It used to be a steel mill, so like it's very, very dirty. But that there is a plan like to develop that land. They've been wanting to make it like the new downtown, like make it, you know, I think Mariano's was going to come there at some point. I remember being at a presentation where they said we want to bring Abercrombie and Fish down to the south side. I was like, what? We don't have money for that here. And a lot of people in the community are like, look at that as an opportunity to get out of poverty, right? Like to be able to have like, you know, their fair shake, right? But there has been a really great efforts by organizations like Alliance for the Southeast that have been working with developers to try to get CBAs, but not one of those developers wanted to get into a CBA with the community, you know, they would.
Well, I'm saying that because I feel like one of the things that was so amazing to me is like how we all met. And we met when I was working on Amara Anya's campaign. And you know, we met in that awesome ass fish restaurant. And like I remember being a vegan and be like, I'm gonna try it. Like there's no way I'm letting this go. And like, you know, we talked, and I just was like, yo, like, and it was with your cadre of like super moms, and we had, you know, the show there, and I was just like, I think I got home and I got like emotional and almost started crying when I like was learning about the work that you all were doing. We've kind of stayed friends and in contact since, you know, since then. And I think like one of the things I think about is like, even here in somewhere like Pilsen where I do work, and I think like Charles and Jackie will say this too in their own respective like lives, like it can be a lonely road. You know what I mean? Like, and that's people that are conscientious, or at least there's kind of, it's not, you know, Southeast Chicago where there's Blue Lives Matter signs everywhere. And so have you guys faced like retaliation for this type of?
We've definitely faced it. But I feel like there's a lot of people with like really like mixed consciousness. Like they might be really good on the environment, but like really bad on cops. And like we have to be able to work with people that we usually wouldn't work with on certain campaigns. And it's weird, you know, like the owner of the Crowbar, it's a bar here in the neighborhood. He was really pissed off, Pat Carroll, because he had a lot of Petcoke on his balcony where, like outside of his house. And so when he heard that there was a campaign to stop the Petcoke piles and from that stuff blowing around, he was always so happy to see us, you know, and like always received us with open arms and let us have meetings in his banquet hall and all the rest of it. And there's just like been like a lot of stories like that, you know, like where there was people who will kind of just come out of the woodwork. I'm sorry, I lost my thought.
You know, for Gina and Oscar, like, how does retaliation look like when it comes from the?
Well, what I was gonna say is like, you wouldn't expect someone like that to help us out, but he did. But I have been accosted at the deli at Pete's Market, in the dentist office. You know, been called like job killer, like Viro Nazi. You know, just like really, yes.
Enviro Nazi.
Viro Nazi. Because we're a very color community. There's folks who are like, well, you know, we can't have both. We can't have environmental justice and worker justice and have jobs too. Like, it's like we're expected to pick which one we want to have. So it was really interesting during the Petcoke campaign because a lot of folks would come out and say like, oh, we don't have a problem with that. You know, you're going to kill our jobs. And I feel like that was so, like, we should have jobs. We should just have jobs that are not going to make us sick.
I just want someone to call me an enviro faggot so I could be like,
well, how uncreative is that shit? Enviro Nazi? Like, that's your worst insult?
Job killer. Yeah. And you know what? I would say too, during that Petcoke campaign, when we first started, I was so surprised at how many people would say like, hey, mija, you shouldn't be doing that. That's dangerous. Because people were still thinking about like the Edward Doliak days, when if you were, you know, for Harold Washington, maybe you would wake up and your dog would be dead in your backyard, you know, like shit like that. So I had multiple people tell us like, hey, that's dangerous. Like, you know, I started freaking out, like, we should get a security camera or something. Gina has a funny story too about like getting in her car with her husband and like, I hope my car doesn't blow up, you know?
Yeah, tell us.
Oh my, no, that's like always just like a thought. I've had like some people come up. I like how all of our stories are about the crowbar, but I've had like a couple come up to me at crowbar and say like, why do you make everything about race? Like it's not polluted here because, you know, there's not even that many Mexican people here. And I'm like, what? I've been called like a job killer, totally. I've had people upset with me that I protested outside of Sue Garza's house, whatever. I'm gonna do the right thing, man. Like this is what I believe in. I'm raising my kid here, and that's like he deserves the best quality of life that I can provide for him.
I would be a job bottom. I would be a job bottom because wage labor fucks me. I'll take that one. I'd be like, and so like, I mean, but I do think like when you're talking about like that type of, I mean, well, actually, Oscar, I want to hear a little bit from you, but I have a question formulating. Sorry, Charles and Jackie. I feel like I'm like, I drank too fast too soon. So I'm just like, la, 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 la. But wait, Oscar, how about you? Has there been some of that? Because I think it's also interesting that, you know, people think youth activism is really cute. It's very tokenized, right? Like in a lot of ways. And then the minute that when youth are actually doing shit, it gets, you know what I mean? And right now they're in a really weird position. So you can have someone like Miguel Del Valle step out and tell young people this. You can have Sue. I mean, the fact that Sue's crying that kids showed up at her house is I mean, it's like nuts, right? Like, and so like the ridiculousness of it, you know, it's her actually reframing herself as being bullied. But what's some of the retaliation you all have seen over there?
For me, it's just people want to call me out. So I call it out how it is, right? So I'm saying like, people want to say we're fighting for environmental justice, but it's also, we have to recognize that it's environmental racism. So people don't want to hear that though. They're like, oh, no, don't make this a race thing. I'm like, no. For many years and many times in Chicago, it's been about race. Like we can't forget that. So, I mean, all I've had is like people want to troll me and like they try to like take my time. But I'm like, I see a comment. I'm like, I'm not going to respond to it. I don't care. I'm going to move on with my day. Like you just move forward. Like I don't need to waste my time. And I work with youth all the time, and like they're the ones that hold me down and keep me grounded. They're like I think there's a lot of adultism in like organizing in general, and we have to recognize that like and I've also been doing like racial healing circles, and like shout out to TRHT, Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation. Our youth did like 18 racial healing circles in one day. And it was all youth, and then all these sponsors and people who volunteer to come out, they're like, youth did this, they're making me formulate these deep concepts and thoughts. They're like, what? And I'm like, no, they've always been able to do this. You just never listened. So I think it's about taking youth very serious, that they have these profound thoughts, they have these profound feelings, but it's also because they have this profound trauma, and we're never addressing that.
She went to the trauma. She went to trauma informed. Look at it. Do it. I think one of the things.
Snaps.
And now I'm going to do a spoken word poem about the earth in Chicago because. Boom, plant grow, boom. No, I'm just playing. Okay, so one of the things that I do want to think about though is, as we kind of like close out is, so, you know, I was asking about that lonely road because I think one of the things I think is like, this is not just, as much as it is about Southeast Chicago, it's also something that ends up affecting the city, right? Yeah. Not even just the overall kind of environment of the city, but also the precedents that it sets of what people like General Iron think that they can get away with, of Lori Lightfoot thinks that they can get away with. And so, you know, there's power in numbers. And I mean it, you know, really seriously. We talked about further collaborating, you know, after this show, but what are things that people can do to support the environmental justice work? And like, what are the real things they can do? Because as much as we are here, like in, you know, in the Hoodoisie, and we champion all forms of activism, we lead a lot of digital actions and things like that. You know, I also want to think about like, this is a dire situation. And we don't think it's a dire situation because we're surrounded by dire situations right now, right? Like, and so, but what are some hard, what are some concrete, hard and hard ass actions that people can do right now to support the work that you all are doing?
We need calls and letters to Lori Lightfoot. We need to just be blowing her up, like to deny these permits. RMG is the facility that needs to apply for the city, the Chicago permits. They haven't applied yet. So once they do, we need to just keep hitting her hard. There's going to be a rally. Oscar can talk about that because he's taking the lead on organizing that.
Sure, yeah. And then, yeah, so we're organizing before we mention the rally, we're organizing a call-in day. We want to make sure we clog up Lori Lightfoot's phone and Sue Garza's phone so they know we're serious. We want them to end up cutting the line. We want them to like end the phone calls for the day. So we're organizing that. We'll keep people posted on that. But we are doing a protest, a rally August 23rd. We're going to be meeting in the east side at a location called The Zone. We got permission and everything. So we're going to be there doing a rally and holding, like, just educating the community about what we're doing. And also we just want people to know, like, it's serious. It's right there on the commercial, like before Commercial Street on Avenue O. So we're going to be doing some of the civil disobedience, I guess. But we asked folks to come out and join. If you want to join, like, you can hit up the Southeast Youth Alliance or UN10. Those are the people like spearheading this, and also Bridges and Puentes. And then our EJ groups are just backing us up because, again, like, I appreciate for what they've been doing. And then that's something that we talked about. Like, they've taken our stance very serious and they respect the decisions we've made, and we respected them and their expertise. So we kind of had that collaboration together. So it's pretty dope. But yes, if people want to join, it's August 23rd. Come out. We're going to show out, and we're going to make sure we get the attention we need for people to know how serious this is, because they think everything is serious, and they don't understand. Like, one thing we want to talk about earlier is like the Superfund in Hegwish. We call it Stone Cold Hills. And we were in a meeting last week, and I'm like, oh shoot, like, you're talking about the place that has all the black flooring and like the rocks. They're like, yeah. I'm like, I would smoke weed when I was in high school there. And they're like, yeah, like, you probably like are gonna get sick because of that. And I'm like, it's so normal. Like, all these spots are normal. Like, even the baseball fields. I remember, like, when I hear about the contaminants, I remember seeing little kids drop their pizza and pick up and freaking eat the pizza afterwards. Like, it's contaminated. So again, it's just to make people aware, and we're doing these events just to share our experiences. And it's one of many. So come on out August 23rd again. And besides that, just keep on.
And Oscar, you also.
I was going to say, oh, go ahead.
You also mentioned a phone calling event. Can I get, and people from outside of the ward can kind of call in for that as well, right? Because it's still the city. Just like the council members that are not wards get to vote on how other people's wards are affected, right? So if you are watching the show right now, and I think there's about 100 of you or 77 of you or 70 around there, if you would be interested in helping out with the calling in, please use the Carry Act now. And you can go ahead and send us your email in the DM, and we will follow up with you. And that would be that. And Olga B. Olga, from my small town.
It's like it was before Cardi B. I was
right.
Olga B. Just want to put it out there. Yeah, I just want to say, please check out our Facebook pages where we put information. I just want to give a shout out to Oscar's team, whether it's at the Southeast Youth Alliance or with folks at United Neighbors for the 10th Ward, and also the emerging leaders at Puentes Bridges, because literally
all of them, like, really,
every week, every other week, there's actions happening regarding General Iron. There's phone call days. It has been amazing to see such a resurgence of, and young people just coming out and demanding that justice happens now, where I feel like a lot of folks like my age and older who have been working on these issues for a long time, get exhausted, and we start to think like, maybe this is all that can happen. And then we meet all these amazing youth and they're like, hell no, this is not going to happen. So I just would say, stay in touch through Facebook, through the Southeast Youth Alliance page on Facebook, through the Southeast Side Coalition to ban Petcoke. And yeah, especially tomorrow, we have some information, something that is going to happen tomorrow that will be in the paper that we want you all to really just watch out, look for it on the Hoodoisie Facebook page too, to share out. And then, yeah, we need to start to think about like what's gonna happen here in the future. We have a lot of leaders who are really stepping up, and I want to see them in positions of power. You know, I want them to run for office too.
What time is on the 23rd? What time?
23rd. Right now it's to be determined, but we're thinking sometime between 1 and 4. So we'll send all the information, blast it out.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And follow us on Twitter too, because that's where we get real petty and we start calling out Dr. White and, you know, anybody who's in the way of us getting the justice, environmental justice that we need. So please follow us on Twitter as well.
Yeah, we also have an event coming out the 16th, but we can't really talk much about that one. But again, like Olga was saying, like we're tired. We're a generation that we want urgency, so we're working on it. So every week we have an action step. Every week from when the riots first started, we've had action step addressing Black Lives Matters, and now we've moved to Black Lives Matters and talking about environmental racism and RSOs being removed from school. So every week, like we're the youth are standing up and really doing something. And then one of the things that I was gonna say is like people don't realize like your vote really matters and like the people we bring into office. So like that's like maybe in the future, I don't know when in the future, but like my dream, like, and I'm gonna call the Hoodoisie out on this, like I want to run for alderman one day. I don't know when that's gonna be, but like I want to be in that power. Like I want to make sure that it's not me. It's like bringing all organizations having that platform. It's not my platform. It's our platform.
Oh wow, she's Bernie Sanders.
Oh yeah,
Bernie Arenas.
Big Bernie. Carlos Rosa in the making.
Shout out
Yes.
Carlos Rosa in the making. Yo, that is actually the most Mexican thing about you. Each one of you has been like, just wanna say, and then like name 7 organizations. It's like I felt like a quinceañera when like they just like go through like talk like.
Say bye to everybody.
I love it. It's actually great at this point because I always, after you guys talk, I always like go and like look them up when I'm sober. So that's great. I want to thank our guests for being here this evening and invite you all to stick around as we throw it to Jackie Serrato. Look how awesome Jackie is right now. I just want to hug her. And give it to Jackie for updates.
Hey everyone, so I just have a few things that I want to say. So as we speak right now, closer to 9 p.m., downtown Chicago is on lockdown. The city specifically said that this is not a curfew because residents and workers from the Loop have permission to move around. Last night, I tried to take a cruise down Lakeshore Drive and all entrances to downtown were blocked off with city vehicles. And apparently this is gonna go on all week from 9 p.m. at night to 6 a.m. in the morning. As far as I understand it, never in the city of Chicago has the city raised the bridges and cut access to downtown with the same frequency and ease as Mayor Lori Lightfoot's administration. So how is the city going to police who's from the area and who isn't? What could go wrong, right? I'm already hearing about racial profiling of Black people and people of color who are employed downtown and are getting questioned and pulled over by police for being in the area when it's starting to get dark. All of this keeps reinforcing the reality of the two Chicagos. And I don't really see how this approach is supposed to mend the broken relationship that the city has with a huge portion of its constituents. Mm-hmm. On Sunday, police shot a man in Inglewood, a 20-year-old who survived. But police say that the man had shot at them first, and so that they returned fire. Some eyewitnesses disputed that claim, and police couldn't provide any evidence whatsoever because their body cameras were off, their dashboard cameras were off, and it's unclear if the blue light camera nearby captured anything. And the days when people take police at their word are over. Mm-hmm. So police were deep on the South Side on Sunday afternoon, and people say that some of that tension spilled into downtown, where Sunday night and Monday morning, all of the Magnificent Mile got broken into. It said that those actions were not tied to protesters, to the BLM organization, or to specific activists, and that may be true, but regardless, it was a social upheaval, and damage to property is a legitimate form of protesting, whether people like it or not, and whether the actors conceptualize it that way or not. It was a manifestation of the pent-up energy that's been building up in sectors of impoverished and over-policed communities, because something's got to give, particularly during this pandemic where poor people have been forgotten. Raising bridges and enforcing segregation ain't gonna change a damn thing. All of those who wanna be mad at looters, be mad at corporate thieves. Your tax money is being siphoned away from our neighborhoods to developers and to projects like Lincoln Yards and the 78. The TIF funds were designed to skim money off of our property taxes to help fund public schools and public parks and public amenities. But instead they've been used as a slush fund to funnel our tax money, about $2 billion worth of money from our neighborhoods into luxury and fun projects downtown. The last thing I want to say is that, and celebrate, is that half of the CPS budget for police has been slashed in half due to the remote learning plans for the fall semester. Just notice how quickly and easily the city was able to do that. Officials are able to defund CPD, they just choose not to. And this month, the school board is going to vote on renewing their contract with Chicago Police. So let's go and see about that. Last thing is that, I want to send a shout out to all of the youth who are holding powerful people's feet to the fire.
Yo, Jackie is trying to make me want to cry right now. I don't know why I got so emotional. It's not the sangria. It is just like, I appreciate everything that was said. And yo, Charles, Jackie's coming for us with the analysis right there. I'm like, I just love that Jackie's updates start out being like, here's what you all need to know. And every week they just got me like, look, motherfuckers, we gotta talk. And it's so
just at a time. She's like, I'm tired of this shit.
We gotta keep it real.
Yeah, thank you. And everyone, get your ass to the SouthsideWeekly.com. Right? I've been seeing a lot of people talk about the need for independent journalism, and I guarantee you one of the places that I make sure to get all my news from all the time is the Southside Weekly. And one of the things that's so awesome about it is having someone like Jackie there who's been doing such good work at making sure the shit that wouldn't get covered is getting covered, and it's getting covered by the people that are on the front lines of a lot of these issues. So let's give it up for Southside Weekly. I also now want to give it up for our Rona reflection to close us out. Mr. Charles Alexander Preston. That's how you say his name in French, Preston.
Whiskey Poppy. The fight against capitalism is incomplete without an awareness of the environment and how it impacts working class folks every day. Here in Chicago, the Southeast Side is one of the biggest and best kept secrets when it comes to community organizing. Organizing that exposes the challenges and challenges the nefarious nature of capitalists vying to put their poisonous shit in the neighborhoods of working class people. The Southeast Side Coalition to Ban Petcoke, the Southeast Environmental Task Force, and the Southeast Youth Alliance have been the vanguard in this resistance against General Iron and Petcoke. Organizers have made it loud and clear what they want from corporations. Like General Iron and politicians like Alderman Sugarza, Mayor Lightfoot, and Governor J.B. Pritzker. They want them to stop dumping shit in our neighborhoods. Do all you can to prevent pollution and its effects. And most of all, respect the people who live there. I find it fascinating how capitalists and politicians just up and decide that they will dump scrap metal in a community, especially during the pandemic, or that they will demolish buildings and create dust through the air affecting the respiratory system, especially during the pandemic, or that they will continuously build infrastructures that require the dumping of toxic pollutants in the places where children play, seniors walk, and babies are strolled. None of this is done with community consent. Consent requires that people are aware of every harmful effect that comes with political decision-making. Therefore, this is bigger than environmental racism. This is the status quo. This is environmental terrorism and genocide. Because how dare you not consider how people fucking breathe? We're talking about the effects that we can't see. We're talking about inhalation of toxic shit that can rest in the body. And then all of a sudden, one day you're in a doctor's office, if you can afford it, and they're saying some shit about you having cancer. You don't even think to tie it to what's in the fucking air. This is the invisible fight that our guests are embroiled in. This is happening in the Southeast side, and they need our solidarity because the air knows no borders, water knows no borders, and they just need our solidarity. Quick story. My late mentor, Bob Equacy, was part of an organized campaign against cigarettes and cigarette ads. He used to literally grab some paint and a ladder and paint over cigarette ads on billboards in Black communities. When he told me how he used to do this, he said something I never forget. He asked, what's one thing everyone can agree to organize around? I said, I don't know. He said, health. Everyone can agree that they want to live another day. I thank our organizers tonight for doing this, continuously doing this. Let their work not be in vain and cast it to the shadows or something we talk about momentarily. Take pride in it, push it forward, and let motherfuckers never forget that the Southeast side of Chicago is fighting for environmental justice.
Hey, let's give it up for Alexander Preston. Thank you so much, Charles, for.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Can I get that signed? Can you can I print that out and get it signed from you?
we're gonna print them out and let Charles hand them out and get them signed. I do want to throw a couple of final things out there. As you know, this is the last Hoodoisie pandemic issues for a little bit. Me, Charles, and Jackie will be conferring and thinking about when we're coming back. In the meantime, keep your eyes out. Every episode that you saw on the Hoodoisie for the past 3 months, since April, when we teamed up with Southside Weekly and brought this back, we are turning into a one-page guide that can be circulated online, and they'll also be printing out. We'll also be working on some other projects, collecting stories of mutual aid and community support that was happening during the pandemic and the uprisings. Alongside that, we are finishing a journal, Never Normal Again. It has think pieces from so many of the people that have been on the show over the years that are telling us why we should use this pandemic and the uprisings to never go back to normal again and to wish for something bigger and more radical and more just and free. That should be coming out in a handful of weeks. Also, the Hoodoisie has been pioneering what digital platform and creative activism can look like in the city of Chicago since our inception, and many of our organizers, like Charles and myself, have been doing it well before then for many years. We are doing a creative activism teach-in when we'll be bringing in and inviting arts activists and scholars from across the country to give you all the tools that that we have. We'll be sharing some of our own tools about how you can mobilize culture, art, media, and platforms to make some motherfucking change. So look out for that. And look out for some more mischief that we're definitely going to be getting ourselves into, some secret actions. I want to thank everybody that's been watching these weekly series. I also want to thank everybody that would watch these weekly series and didn't just become a viewer, but also became a social actor, signing up for our digital actions that got so much information out, whether it was about the landmark ordinance or about the defund police campaign, teaming up with the Black Abolition Network, and also letting everyone know that her name should be Lori Lightfoot. That's not the last from us, and you'll be seeing more of us, and there'll be more opportunities for you to plug on in. If you have an idea for a show, if you want to be a part of a show, if you ever want to be a guest on a show, please send in. I mean, really, like this show tonight has been one of many shows we've had with Olga and Gina and teaming up. And it all happened out of a conversation of saying we should work together. So we're always looking for those opportunities. It's called the Hoodoisie, so it ain't our show. It's definitely not my show anymore. My ass is in a PhD program, and I'm less hood every other week. And so, it's your show, and come in and hit us up. Let us know how we can be of service and how we can work together. I want to give one last shout out to Gina. Yo, I'm acting like Oscar now. One last thank you to Gina, Oscar, and Olga, and my co-host Charles and Jackie. I love you all so much, and it's been so awesome to do this together. Can't wait to be back. See you all soon.